Hello YouTube, how you doing? Price Down Mall here. Today I have my 2022 Chinese bike, Templar. In this case is the model. It's supposed to be a 250cc. Um, Nobody really knows. I haven't really looked into it, but the certificate of origin said 9 horsepower. For some reason, my son's bike, it's also a 250. His says 19 horsepower. So I'm not certain what's going on there. Seems to have the same engine. But anyway, today I just wanted to show what I'm going to install today, and it's going to be this particular Nibbi Carburator. The model right there, PE30 MMYJ, and so basically this thing here is supposed to alleviate the lean factor on this particular bike, which they do come a little lean, and you can tell when you get them out of the crate and put them together and try to accelerate a little bit, they basically choke quite a bit, and you could tell they're just running lean. It's a little troublesome starting them up in the mornings or with the choke. I mean, even if you put 93 octane, which I do not recommend, I put 89 on this one, 87 at times. They should run with 87, but anyways, this particular carburetor, um, I would think it's just highly recommended. I hear a lot on the forums, and truly, I'm just gonna give it a try. It was somewhat inexpensive compared to some others and brand names. But anyways, I just wanted to show, I actually already installed the carb. So in this case, I'm actually going to remove it and give it a fine tune. The carburetor, you could see it here. They do have two flavors of it. This one in particular is the one with the red accent, and it has the nice uh, throttle needle there, which is actually pegged to the side on the frame, which is part of the reason why I'm going to remove it. But anyways, in this particular case, I'm just gonna remove it, which is basically the same thing as the original. All the pieces are the same in regards of what I've used. I only ordered a carburetor, so everything else gets in there properly. Everything gets in there tight. I actually even used the cable choke. So I think that was actually kind of cool because I didn't know if it was going to be uh, removed or reused or what. But anyway, showing here real quick, talking about that. This is the original one. Cannot be taken apart. It's riveted. I mean, I suppose that you could take a drill to it and go at it, but I basically just wanted to leave that one alone. And now, this right here is the choke portion that came with the Nibbi carburetor. Okay, so all I did was take this out and from the Nibbi, or from the Nibbi, and then put the original cable, which looks exactly just like that, but the only difference would be instead of having this knob, it has the cable going to the handlebar. So it fit perfectly. No trouble putting it in there or tightening it there. One thing I did notice is that the original, the cable was loose. Okay, so I mean, you could tell that these people are just all for speed. They're just slamming these bikes together, and you have to check everything. I mean, even the motor, I have to go through and check it to be sure that everything is tight and nothing is going to fall apart while I'm out there in the woods somewhere. So, but anyways, talking more about the carburetor, this one here was giving me a little trouble getting it started. I don't know what jets he has. I actually think it's a super small jet compared to the one that's on that one. Okay, so now it's interesting that the kit I bought, which is just that part number that I show in the video, came with the three main jets, the extra ones, and one extra pilot uh, jet in there. You could see them there. Now I did leave it set up as the original, which is the original setting, as you can see here, and you could tell it comes with this little handy card, and you could see the 30. I mean, I wish that this camera would focus a little bit, but you could see that everything, the adjustment on the 30 is really what it comes with. Okay, the 128 main jet and the pilot jet is the 40. And let me see. Yeah, there you go. And the jet needle is on the middle. So you could tell, and then it's got the picture of the pieces and what you need to do to graduate it. When I actually installed it, okay, and this is basically, I'm already satisfied with the tuning on this. Um, so when I installed it, I actually, because I'm in Florida and it's kind of cold right now, and I don't know how long it will stay cold, most likely until early February, okay. I actually moved the needle, okay, one notch down. So I actually made the adjustment for the needle, and you could see the jet needle right here. It's like in the middle with that line, those triangles, the third one down, the fourth one actually, that goes from side to side. So when you see this card, this particular thing right here, that's just a fine adjustment, okay? Everything else is like really, really, the adjustment is pretty, it's not as broad. This adjustment is pretty broad. It's just for fine tuning, and this is just, it just covers a specific range. Okay, like low speed. This one is more like for mid to the full speed, for the full throttle. Okay, and that would be like the main jet. Okay, the second one. So you could tell if you've done this. I've never done it, and I just went ahead and looked at the card for a moment, and it was actually pretty easy to interpret. So whoever gets or has one of these 250s, the recommendation would be to actually leave it alone as it comes from the factory. Okay, unless you live up in Colorado, let's say, or Wisconsin, where it's really dry, and then at that point you will have to make it richer. Okay, which is my recommendation. Don't go by it, or you don't have to go by it, but that's just my recommendation. I'm in Florida, and it's pretty, it's cool, and it's pretty dry, so I just made it a little leaner, and I'd rather have it a little actually richer. So I actually have it a little richer, especially this bike. I'm going to change the sprockets, and it's going to be more for street use, and I'm going to change the tires, not so much for the forest or sand or whatever it is. So I really want it to be the mixture a little bit richer than leaner. Okay, so that was just my purpose for this bike anyway. So anyway, just going back at it, at this particular thing to actually get this removed. All I wanted to say is that you will have to remove for ease and convenience the seat and the tank. You don't have to remove these things here. You could just take that screw off and lift this. That way, you need it to be out of the way, okay, just to remove the tank. It's much easier, and it will allow you to move everything better, and you should be able to get this cap off from up here. And if you need to rearrange your cables, which I actually did, I'm going to show that on the video once I take this off. But you really want this thing to fit perfectly and not have any issues. That way you don't have to take it apart. Okay. One thing I wanted to mention is that in my case, I will be putting a high flow filter on this bike, and I'm going to leave the air box. Okay, I'm not putting one of those spot filters. I think it makes the carburetor too lean, and then you're gonna have to adjust the main jet and the pilot jet, and you're gonna have to start fiddling around with everything if you were to do that. So it's better just to leave the that particular air box there. Okay, so just put a high flow filter, and you should be all set. Okay, just move the needle. In my case, I moved it one portion. One of the needle just went actually further up. Okay, just to maintain the reach factor on the carburetor. But that should be able to accomplish that instead of just fiddling around with the settings and the other portions of the carb. Okay, so but anyways, let me just stop the video real quick and go at it. That way I can remove this and I can show you what I mean. Okay, thanks. Okay, so as for the tools, I've already removed the seat. But as for the tools, you will need a number 10 millimeter socket, and you will need a number 4 Allen wrench, which is the small one, and then you'll need a number 5 Allen wrench. The number 4 would be for these. There's 2 of them. Okay, and then the number 5 will be for the 4 that are down here right under the seat. Okay, Now for this one, I'm almost thinking that it's also a number. Yep, that's also a number 5. So these are all number 5, and then the number 4s, and then the 10 millimeter socket. It's actually for the seat. If you're new to this bike, that hole right there, it's for the seat and holds the seat, okay, to the bike. So other than that, oh, remember one thing, in this particular bolt, do not over tighten this, okay? It's probably going to be a little loose. In my case, it was actually super tight, and the tank was bent into the frame, okay? And you don't want that to happen. That will ruin your tank and you'll have to get a new one, okay? But let me continue and show. Oh, before I continue, hold on. Don't forget to disconnect the gas. I actually just undid that one, and this should be good to go. As far as the carburetor goes, you will see that in this particular case, all you have to do is remove the just really untighten these, remove the spark plug wire, okay, that way that's out of the way, okay, and you should be able to take those, loosen them up, and then the carburetor, the original in your case, if you haven't installed one like me, it should be able to move back and then presses right off. With the tank off, it would be so much easier. So but anyways, those are the pieces that you have to undo, and we'll go from there. Okay, so I'm back. So basically this is the bike with the tank removed, okay. For those of you that actually put this bike together, there's probably no surprise, because this bike actually had quite a bit of the cabling all over the place for some reason. At the same time, you know, that's part of the prep work they do if you pay the people that sells you the bikes. But in my case, I chose not to get it assembled, so I did it myself, okay. These are the cables for the choke, this one here, and then the throttle cable. Mine were under here for the original carburetor. Okay, they were both. I actually think one of them was down here, the other one was up here. I'm not sure, but when I put this carburetor, I had to reroute them, so I just put them around. Okay, I just put them around in a way that they would not get caught on anything, and I put them around. Okay, so you got the throttle cable here, and you have the actual cable here for the choke. So, and I put them around through here, okay, which in my case that broke. I think that was the first time I took it out. No big deal though. And then I put some tie wraps here. Let me just go on the other side. So these are the same, are the cables here. They go around, I put them underneath, and then on the other side, and then they come out here, and then right on top of this part of the frame. And in my case, eventually when that cable has to be replaced, I'm going to get a 90-degree one. I know they have the 45-degree ones, which will fit there perfectly, but this should be fine for now, okay. When you do take the other carburetor out, in my case this wasn't super tight, so mine just came right off. So like this one here is the same. Be sure that the needle doesn't get all busted up. In my case, this is the actual carburetor I'm using, so I have to be careful that the needle or the slide don't get all busted up somehow. So I have to be careful with that. You want to keep this as scratch free as possible, that way it doesn't get cut. You could always get some super fine sandpaper if that was to occur, but you want to try to avoid putting any abrasive papers or sandpaper, or even refinish it, even though it should be okay if you know how to do it. But anyways, in this case I already took pretty much everything out. I loosened everything up in this particular case, and you see the choke cable here. I am gonna have to use a wrench to loosen it up, or like in my case, you see how the carburetor is moving already. I should actually be able to remove the needle, which is part of the reason why I'm removing this. Okay, I don't want this needle to be touching the frame. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do, since I am gonna remove the needle anyway, I'm gonna take it out. Okay, and then I am going to remove the carburetor. Okay, in most cases, and the way I did it to begin with, you see this gap right here. What I did is that I moved this forward until it was basically pointed like this, and then the carburetor actually fell into this area here, and I was able to remove it from the other side. Okay, don't try to remove it from this side. There's not enough space because of the exhaust. Okay, so you should be able to remove it from the other side. Now once I get this done, this needle out of here, all I'm going to do is use the original from the other carburetor and put it here. Okay, it should be a little shorter, but it should still work. Okay, I'm actually going to compare them at the end of the threads, and I'll show you what I mean in a moment. Okay, let me just take this out and I will continue the video. Thank you. Okay, YouTube, so I'm back real quick with both needles. This is the actual needles that came from the car. This one is the Nibbi one, this one is the original. Now if you compare them, you take the springs off, the springs are pretty much identical, with the exception that the Nibbi one is a little longer, because you see the one on the left, it's a little longer because the needle itself is longer. Okay, so they had to compensate to maintain this properly seated inside. Now this one is shorter, which is part of the reason why I want to use that instead. I did not know that when I installed it, so didn't know it was going to be this one was going to go against the actual frame, so I left it. And I figured, let me put the one from the original car, which actually fits. I just tried it and it fits perfectly. And if you compare from the thread forward, see the thread, and then the tip that touches the slide, they're pretty much identical. When you see right there, so you should be, I'm only losing a little bit of the, or well, I'm actually losing like maybe like half an inch maybe, which should be plenty for me to be able to sit that particular needle in place without it touching the frame of the bike. Okay, which is really what I want to do. I'm gonna try it anyway. If it doesn't work, you guys will hear about it, but for now I think it's gonna work just fine. So the carb's still on the bike and it's just there, and I should be able to remove it pretty simply just by pressing it right there, and it will come right off, and like I said, it goes out from the other side. Okay, so let me continue that and go from there. Thank you. Okay, YouTube, so I was able to put the needle, the original from the old carburetor, on the Nibbi. Okay, and there is, I'm gonna put the screwdriver through here. Yeah, there is room for the screwdriver, you see. So this needle is not touching the frame, which it's exactly what I wanted to accomplish. Okay, you should still be able to adjust it either with a screwdriver. So that would be for the throttle, and then the one for the air, you see it right there. You should be able to see it on the new carburetor. It's like right there, and with a flathead screwdriver, I got like a long one in there. It will allow you to adjust that there. Okay, so in my case, I actually took this out with the settings that I have, which is one thing I wanted to show you. I took everything apart in order to be able to show this, but this thing here is the one for the Nibbi carburetor, and you could see the inside of the needle. I don't know if you'll be able to tell. I mean, maybe just a little bit. Okay, so should be able to see that there's some notches on the needle, and you have to really be careful you don't bend that. Okay, it needs to be that needle has to stay straight in order to be able to go into the that hole there, and it cannot be against the walls. If not, the mixture is going to be wrong, or it's just going to wear out the main jet is just going to mess it up. Okay, but anyways, what I wanted to show is that I actually took, in order to be able to take the needle out, you have to remove that S shape type of piece of metal that's in there. First, you have to use needle nose pliers to take it out. Then the needle will come out, and you should be able to pull that clip, that circlip, from the needle. That's actually, it comes in in the middle of the needle. Okay, I actually took mine and put it down one notch. So basically, it's two notches from the bottom. Okay, so it makes the needle actually rest a little lower. Okay, and then you should be able to actually, it makes the needle rest higher. Okay, not lower, higher. Okay, so that actually makes the fuel mixture richer. Okay, which is what I wanted on mine, at least. Most people, like I said before, you could just leave it the same and it should still work. That is just a fine adjustment. I prefer it that way for my particular reason. Okay, but for most people, leaving this alone should be the way to go. Okay, which is the factory setting. Factory setting is middle, then 1.5 turns on the air, from all the way from the right all the way to the right, and then go back 1.5 turns. And then this one, the throttle, you will adjust it accordingly to the speed that you want the actual motor to run when it's idling. Okay, I got it set down to about with the mixture as rich as it is for mine. I got it set to be a little bit over 1,000 RPM. Okay, which is okay. All right, so in most cases it will be a little under, maybe about 900 RPM, but for mine it just runs a little bit over 1,000, and you can see it on the controls on the display. Okay, so but anyways, just going back to this, try not to scratch this, the original. Okay, and just like this one, this little cap needs to go in there first. Okay, so the Nibbi has one, the original had one. So when you turn this around, the little black spacer goes in here first, then the spring. Okay, which are basically identical. Okay, they're basically identical. This one here is the original, and you can see they're basically the same thing. Okay, this one, the original, looks a little longer, but it's not. Okay, they're basically the same thing. Okay, so same carburetor, same amounts of millimeters. It's not smaller, it's not a larger carburetor, whatever. Okay, so now this one is the original. You see how it has that cap in there? I am not sure if you could remove that or not, but I'm not gonna try it. I didn't want to bust it up somehow, and I really wanted to keep the original alone and just save it. Okay, so I didn't try to move the needle or mess around with that one, considering I was not going to use it anyway. Okay, so but on this one I did change it, and in order to be able to put the cable, I would route them just like this. It actually does the job perfectly, allows me to move the carburetor, press it back and forth or whatever. Okay, and then remember this little thing, don't lose it. Okay, this is actually really important to maintain that thing there in place. Okay, just in case it breaks or whatever, you know. Anyways, the cable, one quick thing, I cannot do it with holding the camera, but once you put this thing through here, okay, you should be able to, it goes right, this goes right in there, and oh, there you go. So, and it's perfect, fits perfect. Okay, now for that, and this is the part that I cannot actually do with one hand. Okay, but you have to put, like I said, this first, and I'm actually gonna try it anyway. So you have to put that first, then the spring, and then you have to compress the spring. Okay, it will typically will be easier to have a helper. Okay, now you see the amount of cable here. You have to compress the spring like a little bit more than halfway in there first, and then you have to fish the cable through the hole that's in there. Let me take that out again. You have to take that cable and fish it through. Okay, that way it engages into that little hole right there. Okay, but you need to be able to put all of this stuff together. You can do it with 2 hands, of course. You need 2 hands, but a helper would be preferable. Okay, so once I do that, I'll show again how it looks, and then we can continue. Okay, my friend. So I was able to put it in there without actually letting the spring go inside. You could see the black. You could see that black spacer. That spacer has to go. It goes the spring, the spacer, and then the cable goes right through the spacer. Then you have to put it there. Okay, so you see how the spacer has the cable right through it. It has to be done that way. Most people will want to put the spacer first. Okay, it is not going to work if you do that. The cable needs to go right through the spring and then the spacer. Then you put it in there, and then once that's done, you can let it go right into that hole, and it all holds in there. You see how the cable rests right inside of the spacer. If you do it the other way around, the cable is not gonna want to go in there, and it's gonna be out here because of the spacer is right on the way. Okay, so that spacer is also preventing this cable somehow coming out, if that's even possible. But anyways, this should be it. And you know, if you were to, let me just go up here. So if I go the throttle, you see how it's moving, and now the throttle, once I replaced the carburetor, this became, because of the slide is so smooth, the throttle became super smooth, unlike the original, which was just a pain in the ass. Okay, anyways, I'm actually gonna put this right here. You see the notch, that's where it goes for the throttle needle. That's already placed in there. I actually, you can see it there a little bit. So you definitely want to get that started somehow. Hopefully it will work for me. I am uncertain if it's going to or not. What I do know is that it actually works as far as the threading goes. Just need to be sure that that notch, it's right there, and you're not really forcing it. You should basically slide all the way down, and just like it did, and there it goes. Okay, so once that's done, I mean, I'm surprised it even took one hand to actually do it. Just be sure you don't cross thread. It's another thing you have to take care of, not to cross thread this thing, and leave it hand tight. Okay, it doesn't have to be super tight, doesn't have to be, you know, you have to put a wrench in there, or you have to really do none of that. Okay, so once it reaches the bottom, you should be able to make it hand tight. Okay, and that's it. Okay, so once that's there, you could hear it, and should be in good shape. Now the throttle may not be adjusted properly because the needle may have to go further in. Once I can determine the throttle and where it needs to go, I mean, there's still a little bit of room on that spring. I am uncertain whether I'm going to have to use a different spring or not, but I think that is going to be just fine. Okay, so I'm going to put everything together. I mean, the tank and the other stuff, whoever took that out can put it back in right now. This is truly just complete. Don't forget to do those, tighten those up. They don't have to be extremely tight, as long as they're just being held properly in there. Just align that to where it doesn't have any room to let air through here, and check the back of it, like right in there. You have to be sure that there's no air coming in from the sides, and everything should actually line up. That needle came out perfect. It's not touching the frame, which is really exactly what I wanted to see. And this moves freely, which is great. Okay, so there's no vibration issues that I can foresee. So other than that, once I get it together, I will just leave the needle in the right place, and I will discuss a little more of the settings I got and go from there. Okay, guys? Okay, guys, so before I continue, I actually went ahead and removed the spark plug, and I don't know if you can tell, but it looks kind of dark. At the same time, you see kind of like that brownish color on it. I think that's the way it needs to look. Okay, like golden color like that. If it was black, then it would be the bike would be running too rich. But it needs to be like the brownish golden color like that. I mean, I don't know if you could even tell. It looks like it's a little bit on the dark side, but not by a lot. So this particular spark plug has maybe 30 miles. With the old carburetor, I really haven't been able to run it with the new setup a lot. I just idle it a couple of times, and that was basically it. So I'm not sure if there's any old type of residue in there, which of course there is from the original setup. So I mean, based on that, I would call it okay. Maybe a little bit rich, but not by a lot. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to run it with this spark plug for maybe 5 or 10 miles, and then I'll either mention it on the video or the comments after I post the video, or I will do like a quick recap. I'll take the spark plug out again. I'm not sure if I want to put a hotter spark plug in here, if there is even one available for this bike, but this was the original spark plug that came with the bike. So it says what is it, D8TC. So I want to see what that is supposed to be as far as the spark and the gap, and God knows if even the spark or the gap are correct. I am uncertain of that. So I may just get a new spark plug anyway. If I need to get a hotter spark plug, I used to have an RX-7 rotary engine, and I used to have, I modified it quite a bit, and I used to put hotter spark plugs, even though these are different. It's a piston engine, and the rotary is completely different engine. But I used to put hotter spark plugs, and it would burn most of the fuel. Especially, I used to put oil in the fuel because I modified that car a lot. But anyways, I'm gonna run it, like I said, for maybe 5 or 10 miles, and check back with you guys. And let me just finish this up, get this going again, and put in the tank, and let me see if I can get it started. Okay, so it should be without the choke. Once I start it, I'm gonna start it, or try to start it without the choke, which will indicate that we'll actually be running a little bit on the rich side. So that would allow me to start it without the choke. Okay, so I'll be right back. Okay, so I got the spark plug back in there. Okay, I took the needle. I wouldn't say I actually did it all the way down, but once it started to get, I wouldn't say tight, maybe a little tight, but not too tight. I mean, you can still see some turns available on the spring. Then I stopped, and it may be a little bit The idle may be a little high, but anyways, I actually put the tank in there, connected everything, put the spark plug back. I'm just gonna get it started before I put the seat on, and see if I can adjust the air adjustment one more time if required. I don't think I'll have to do it, but I mean, it was pretty well tuned before. I just don't want it to be too rich, and I want it to idle around 900 to 1000 RPM. So let me see if I can get this thing started. So on these, you have to press the rear brake. Start it up. No choke on this one, like I said. I'm not gonna try to get it done with the choke. So there we go. Man, almost like I didn't remove it. Wow. Maybe a little, it's a little higher than I left it, so yeah. It looks like it's bouncing back and forth between, I don't know if that's, I mean, it goes from what is it? Between 1 and 1500, so I don't know if I would call that 1250, but I mean, it doesn't even seem to be going that fast. No kidding. So the needle, the throttle needle, I won't say it's all the way in there, but I could probably go a little further back. The screwdriver, I mean, there's still some room in there, I think. Yeah, I mean, there's still some room in there, better than with the other one. So I could probably take it back one bit. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so it seems to be that reflection. Okay, so it seems to be like at around, I would call that 1000. Oh, I guess, hold on, I guess it made me look bad. Hold on. Yep, let's see what's going on. Okay, so to me, it looks like I'm gonna have to move the needle, the air needle, to make it richer. Okay, that's what it sounds like. He was doing that. It's either that or it's basically not. See, now it's cold. Before, it was getting warm pretty fast, and the exhaust was getting really hot very fast. So it looks like right now, I mean, I cannot even smell the gas in my hand anymore. Before, I used to smell it really, really, really bad. So I wonder if the throttle and the needle, I don't know. I actually think it's better. It's not, I mean, the exhaust feels still pretty cool. The last time I got it started, when I did it with the original needle, it was actually the exhaust. Okay, so it wasn't doing that before. So I'm wondering if the fact that the needle was pushing against the frame and the whole thing was kind of like shoved in there, I wonder if that was doing it. So now he's basically doing the warm-up part, which is, I actually almost prefer that. it's starting right up, which was not doing that before. Yeah, it sounds like it's just a little bit lean. So I can bring that in, the air to the right, to make it more rich. Okay, so I did half a turn. So right now it's at 3 turns. So what I'm gonna do, since everything starts, I'm actually gonna put the seat back in there. I'm gonna run some adjustments, and I'm probably gonna take it all the way back into to 0 on the air needle, all the way into the right, and then I'm going to back out 1.5 turns and start that as my baseline, and then go from there. Okay, but other than that, I know this carburetor works. Once I get that fine-tuned, I mean, I'm actually happy that I don't smell the gas in my hands. Like originally, I was actually smelling it when I first started, when I first installed the carb. So it looks like the needle may have something to do. It's actually, compared to the original, it may not be lifting the slide like this one. Like this one has like the pointy end. Now the other one has the dull end. So I may have to go one more turn on it. I'm uncertain. I mean, it's the throttle and needle, so it should not really change the mixture in any way. I don't think. It only controls the idle. So I can only say that I'm actually very satisfied with this. So let me just stop the video, get it somewhat tuned, and then I'll report the settings I got and take it for a ride and see what happens. Okay, so I'm back. Finally assembled the whole thing. So seat back, gas tank back. The screw for the air mixture is back to about 3 turns out from the right. So if you go all the way to the right, just go back 3 turns. Okay, with the settings I got, with the needle, has the circlip on the second notch from the bottom. So instead of the middle, I took it down 1. So it's on the second one from the bottom up. Okay. The main jet stayed the same. The gasoline that I'm putting in here, if I'm not mistaken, it's either 87 or 89. Either one should be okay. I would not put 93, especially with my settings, because I think it would be absolutely too rich. Okay, unless I change the spark plug, that is. Okay, so I did start the bike and it started right up. I adjusted the throttle needle a little bit while I had it accelerated. Okay, just a little bit, and then I backed down to where it needed to be. Okay. Other than that, the bike seems to be idling properly between 1,000 and the number 2, which is basically just starting up to, I mean, I can show you the little LED just lights up immediately. So I'm gonna get it started real quick, that way you guys can hear it. And it started right up. I mean, like right now, my plan is to put, okay, so right now it's solid at 3 bars. So if I take it down, the idle, okay, so if I take down the idle, it should be, okay, you see how it's starting to, okay, perfect. So right there, I think today is about 65 degrees here. between 65, 67 degrees maybe, something like that. Possibly even, I don't know, 64 degrees. Not too humid, not too dry. It's not windy at all. No rain, so my hands are pretty dry. So that could actually change, which is the reason for me messing around with the needle anyway. Florida changes weather overnight, so to speak, from rainy to dry to whatever, cold. So in my case, it's going to work out perfectly, I think. Yeah. So if I mess around with the idle a little bit, maybe start fine-tuning the air mixture once I do the filter, I think it would be perfect. But anyway, I hope this helped some people sort out the Nibbi carburetor. In my case, the one I bought, here, let me show the part number again. On this one, I know there's just so many in Amazon, which is where I got it from. But this particular one, and this is a 22 XPro Templar, okay? It's a PE 30mm YJ. There is another one that's kind of like for racing, and it's obviously more expensive. I think it's like maybe another $20. It's tempting. The thing is that I would not recommend it. And the reason for that is that these bikes don't have cams or anything like that, okay? So I really don't recommend to get like a super extreme carburetor for it. But this one runs amazing. So until the next one, guys, thanks so much.